Well, as you know, Thursday is Thanksgiving, and recently Connie and I were watching a program on British television, BBC, and we discovered something about the first pilgrims to our America. They did not leave England. How many knew that? They left Holland. I was shocked. Maybe I was taught this, I forgot it, whatever. They were separatists. They didn't want to be a part of the state church of England for theological reasons. They were separatists, and they originally moved to Holland, but the Dutch culture and language was just too difficult for them, and so they chose to travel here. So we're their second choice. There were other Thanksgivings that preceded the Pilgrims' Thanksgiving of 1621 in Plymouth, but the 1621 Plymouth event is the one that history favors. As you know, the Pilgrims celebrated survival, and they were grateful, and they had a common meal, and they started shooting their rifles, gunfire, and the Native Americans thought there was war and came to see what was happening. And they were warmly welcomed and returned with food, and they celebrated for 3 days. In addition to turkey, there was venison, eel, shellfish, fish, cornmeal on the menu. Now today, we celebrate Thanksgiving, don't we? We typically travel home. There's food, lots of food, too much food. We catch up on family stories, don't we? And we celebrate what God has done in the past year. Usually we dress in warm clothes, right? And we play with the kids. Similarly, today we're going to have communion. You have traveled to church. We will share testimonies. We're wearing our flannels. We've worshiped God with our singing. And in second service, we're going to celebrate new spiritual life with 5 people being baptized and a baby dedication. So, all that to say, we're having fun with our flannels, by the way. That's no other reason other than just to have some fun. But in a way, this could be compared to a church family Thanksgiving today. And I'm going to keep my remarks short so that we have time to hear from you, your voice. I want to hear what God has done in your life. And the Lord has led me to share about a great homecoming in the Bible. It's the homecoming of the remnant from captivity in Babylon by the Israelites. They had sinned greatly and went into Assyrian captivity. And then a couple hundred years later, the southern part of Israel, Judah, they were taken captive and went off to Babylon as well for their sin. They were slaves of war. Now, in between these two events, in between the first Israel going off into Assyria and the Judah going off to Babylon, there was a prophet named Isaiah, and he prophesied. He looked to the future. Isaiah 51:9 says this, "Awake, awake, arm of God, clothe yourself with strength. Awake as in the days gone by, as in the generations of old. Was it not you who dried up the sea, the waters of the great deep, who made a road in the depths of the sea so that the redeemed might cross over?" In many ways, our lives are like a journey. It's a story of birth to death, from captivity to freedom. And here Isaiah recalls the miraculous deliverance of the people of Israel from Egypt in their history where they passed through the Red Sea. Awake as in days gone by, as in generation of old. This is a cry for God's attention. Where are you, God? That is why sharing our testimonies are so important. It's a part of our worship. As we look back in our personal histories and say, God delivered me then, or God healed me, it creates a foundational trust to believe for Him today. Isaiah continues, "Those the Lord has rescued will return. They enter Zion with singing. Everlasting joy will crown their heads. Gladness and joy will overtake them, and sorrow and sighing will flee away." If you're a little older like me, you can remember this. In the 1980s, this was one of the first contemporary Christian choruses. Anybody know what I mean? The overhead projector, you know, the little plastic glass, and "Therefore the redeemed of the Lord shall return and come with singing to Zion, and everlasting joy will be upon their heads. Remember that? Okay, well, this is that verse. The Exodus was in Israel's history, but the prophet Isaiah saw forward that one day the people who were captive would return, and in a moment they would go from being slaves to free people. Their sorrow would turn to joy and everlasting joy. Remember just a few weeks ago I told you about the Greek and the Roman parade of slaves? And well, the Assyrians did that, and the Babylonians did that. When they conquered a people, the conquering general would wear a wreath around his head, and all the slaves would either be killed, and they would march them through the streets. They would either kill them, or they would take them off to Assyria, and then later Babylon, and then later Persia. Anyway, but here, the word picture is a little different. Here, the people who are being set free have wreaths around their head. And that wreath is like an everlasting joy. Perhaps in your life's journey, you're at a point where circumstances seem to have you locked in. You're not where you believe you should be. The good news is that God sets the captives free. He frees us from addictions. He frees us from a sinful heart. Our life is like a journey. It's a story from birth to death, from captivity to freedom in Jesus. A later prophet, Jeremiah, would say 70 years from this prophecy, God is going to set the people of Israel free from Babylon. That prophecy gave Daniel hope, and he prayed every day for deliverance. To the exact year, the Persian king, Cyrus, began to set the Israelites free. Now, the story amazingly continues in one of the Psalms in the Bible. And it is a psalm of that deliverance. It is a psalm of thanksgiving. When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. And it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. Can you imagine the joy of returning home? No more slavery, no more foreign language, no more foreign customs. You get to go home. Home. It was like a mirage. This is a psalm of thanksgiving. It will be said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for me. And we are filled with joy.